Jake Morrison stared at his computer screen and felt his stomach drop. 3 ships had just appeared on the edge of the Kepler 442b system, and they were not responding to any of his messages. He had been working as the communication officer for New Haven Colony for 8 years now, and he had never seen anything like this. "Come in, unknown vessels. This is New Haven Colony. Please identify yourselves," Jake said into his headset for the 5th time. Only static came back through his speakers. He pushed back from his desk and walked quickly down the hallway to find Lisa Grant. She was the colony administrator, and she needed to know about this right away. Jake found her in the main meeting room looking over supply reports with 2 other staff members. "Lisa, we have a problem," Jake said. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking slightly. 3 unknown ships just entered our system. They're not answering our calls." Lisa looked up from her papers. She had been running New Haven for 6 years, and Jake had never seen her panic about anything. She didn't panic now either. "Are they merchant ships? Maybe their communication equipment is broken." "I don't think so," Jake said. "These ships are big and they're moving in formation. They look military to me." Lisa stood up immediately. "Get Ben Carter. I want security on alert right now." 20 minutes later, Jake was back at his station with Ben Carter standing behind him. Ben was the chief of security for the colony, a former Marine who had come to New Haven to get away from military life. He was looking at the screen with his arms crossed, his jaw tight. "Those are warships," Ben said quietly. "No doubt about it." On the screen, the 3 ships were getting closer. They were sleek and dark, with strange angles that made them look dangerous even from far away. Jake sent another message, this time using every frequency he could think of. Nothing came back. "Maybe they're just passing through," one of the other officers suggested hopefully. Ben shook his head. "Ships don't travel in battle formation if they're just passing through." The ships came closer over the next 2 hours. Jake kept sending messages, kept trying different languages and codes. The whole communication team was working now, trying everything they could think of. New Haven only had 50,000 people. They were miners and farmers, not soldiers. The colony had a few small defense guns, but nothing that could fight real warships. Finally, the ship stopped. They were now in orbit around the planet right above New Haven. Jake could see them clearly on his monitors. They were beautiful in a terrible way, covered in weapons and armor. "This is New Haven Colony," Jake said one more time. "We are a peaceful settlement. Please respond." This time something did respond, but it was not a message. The ships opened fire on the colony's communication satellites. Jake watched in horror as his screen filled with static. 2 of their satellites were gone in seconds, destroyed by precise laser fire. "They just shot our satellites," someone yelled. Ben was already running out of the room, shouting orders into his radio. "All security teams, this is not a drill. We are under attack. Get to your positions now." Lisa's voice came over the intercom system, reaching every building in the colony. "Attention all residents, this is an emergency. Please move to the nearest shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Move to the shelters now." Jake's fingers flew over his keyboard. He had to send a distress signal to Earth before the aliens destroyed everything. The problem was that Earth was very far away. Even moving faster than light, messages took weeks to arrive, but it was their only chance. He started recording. "This is New Haven Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. 3 warships are in orbit. They have not responded to any communication attempts. They have destroyed our satellites. Request immediate military assistance. This is an emergency." Outside, Jake could hear explosions. The aliens were firing on the colony now. Buildings were being hit. He could see the flashes of light through his window. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely type, but he had to finish this message. He attached all the data he had on the alien ships, every scan and image his computers had captured. "Sending distress beacon now," Jake said out loud even though no one was listening. He hit the final button and watched the progress bar move across his screen. 50%, 70%. Outside, the explosions were getting louder. 90%. The building shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jake's computer screen flickered. Come on, he whispered. 100%. Message sent. A massive explosion hit somewhere close. The lights went out. Jake's computer died. He sat in the darkness for a moment, listening to the sounds of destruction outside. His message was gone, traveling through space toward Earth. But would anyone get it in time? Would anyone even come? Jake grabbed the emergency flashlight from under his desk and ran toward the door. He had to get to the shelters. Outside, the sky was full of fire. The alien ships were bombarding the colony from orbit, targeting the largest buildings. Jake could see the central administration building burning. He could hear screaming in the distance. He ran down the street, joining crowds of panicked people all heading for the underground shelters. A mother was carrying 2 small children. An old man was stumbling, and a young woman stopped to help him. Even in the chaos, people were helping each other. An explosion hit the building to Jake's left. The force of it threw him to the ground. His ears were ringing. He got up slowly, tasting blood in his mouth. He had bitten his tongue. He kept running. He made it to Shelter 7 and stumbled down the stairs. The heavy metal doors were still open and people were crowding inside. He could see Lisa at the bottom, checking names on a tablet computer, making sure everyone got inside safely. "Jake," she called when she saw him. "Did you send the message?" "Yes," he said, breathing hard. "It's gone. Earth will get it in about 3 weeks." Lisa nodded. Her face was pale but determined. "Then we just have to survive for 3 weeks." But both of them knew the truth. Even if Earth got the message today, it would take months for any help to arrive. The colony had to survive on its own for much longer than 3 weeks. The metal doors sealed shut with a heavy clang. In the darkness of the shelter, hundreds of people sat together in silence, listening to the muffled sounds of their world being destroyed above them. Jake closed his eyes and thought about his message traveling through space. Someone on Earth would hear it. Someone would come. They had to. Admiral Frank Hayes was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alert came through his office computer. He had been commander of Earth's 3rd Fleet for 4 years, and he had seen many alerts in that time. Most of them were false alarms or small incidents, but when he opened this one and saw the priority level, his coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. "Commander Sullivan," he called out. "Get in here now."
Amy Sullivan appeared in his doorway within seconds.
She was his intelligence officer, a sharp woman in her early 30s who could analyze any situation faster than anyone else he knew. "Sir?" "We just received a distress call from New Haven Colony," Frank said, turning his screen so she could see it. "They're under attack." Amy's eyes widened as she read the message. "This was sent 3 weeks ago. Sir, they could already be." "I know," Frank said quietly. He played the audio recording that Jake Morrison had sent. They listened to the young man's scared but steady voice describing the attack. When it ended, Frank played it again. "Pull up everything we have on New Haven," Frank ordered. "Population, defenses, everything." Amy worked quickly on her tablet. "Population 50,000, mostly civilians. Mining and agriculture colony. Defense capabilities are minimal. They have some basic orbital guns, but nothing that could stop military warships." Frank felt a cold anger building in his chest. 50,000 people. Farmers and miners, families. What about these ships that attacked them? Can we identify them? Amy transferred some images to the main screen. The alien warships looked deadly and efficient. "I'm running the designs through our database now. Give me a minute." While she worked, Frank called down to the analysis department. "This is Admiral Hayes. I need Dr. Peter Walsh in my office immediately." Dr. Walsh arrived 10 minutes later, out of breath from running. He was a civilian advisor who studied alien civilizations. A thin man with thick glasses who always looked worried about something. Right now he had a good reason to look worried. "The ships are Vakron," Amy said as Dr. Walsh sat down. "I just got a match from our alien ship database." Dr. Walsh's face went even paler. "Oh no. The Vakron are bad news, Admiral. Very bad news." "Tell me everything," Frank said. Dr. Walsh pulled up some files on his own tablet. "The Vakron sovereignty is an aggressive empire. They expand by conquering other species. They believe most other races are inferior to them. They don't negotiate. They don't do diplomacy. They just take what they want." "Have we had contact with them before?" Frank asked. "No, sir. They're on the far side of known space. We've heard about them from other species, but this is our first direct encounter." Dr. Walsh paused. "Admiral, You should know that according to galactic law, what happened to New Haven is considered a territorial dispute. Most species would file a complaint with the Galactic Council and abandon the colony. Frank stood up slowly. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years of service. He had fought in the border wars 20 years ago.
He had seen combat.
He knew what war looked like. Dr. Walsh, let me make something very clear. Humanity does not abandon its people. Sir, the Vakran military is powerful, Dr. Walsh said nervously. If we respond with force, it could mean war. Frank looked at Amy. How many ships do we have in the Third Fleet? 27 warships, sir. Various classes. We can be ready to depart in 48 hours. Make it 24 hours, Frank said. I want every ship prepared for combat operations. Full weapons loadout. We're going to New Haven. Sir, Amy said carefully. It will take us 3 months to get there, even at our fastest speed. The colony might already be lost. Then we make sure the Vakran pay for it, Frank said flatly. If our people are alive, we save them. If they're dead, we avenge them. Either way, the Vakran are going to learn something about humanity. The next day, Frank stood in front of the Earth Defense Council. 15 people sat in the curved rows of seats, representatives from all of Earth's major governments. They were arguing about what to do. We should try diplomacy first, one council member said. Contact the Vakran government. File a protest. The Vakran don't do diplomacy, Frank said, his voice hard. They attacked a civilian colony without warning. They killed innocent people. There's nothing to negotiate. But a military response could escalate into a larger conflict. Another council member argued. We should go through the Galactic Council. Frank had prepared for this. He played Jake Morrison's distress call for them. The room went silent as they listened to the fear in the young man's voice. They heard the explosions in the background. When it ended, Frank spoke quietly. 50,000 people. Our people. They sent us a message asking for help. What do we tell them? That we're too afraid to respond? That we value peace more than we value their lives? An older woman on the council stood up. Admiral Hayes is right. If we don't respond to this, we tell every hostile species in the galaxy that humans are easy targets. We tell them that they can attack our colonies without consequences. The vote was unanimous. The Third Fleet would depart for New Haven. That evening, Frank stood on the bridge of his flagship, the EDS Retribution. Around him, his crew was working to prepare for the long journey. Through the main window, he could see the other ships of his fleet in formation. 27 warships, the largest fleet Earth had ever sent beyond its borders. Captain Ryan Blake, the ship's commander, came to stand beside him. The crew is ready, sir. We can depart on your order, Frank nodded. He opened the ship-wide communication channel so every person on every ship could hear him. This is Admiral Hayes. In a few moments, we will depart for New Haven Colony. By the time we arrive, it will have been 4 months since they were attacked. I won't lie to you. We may be too late to save them. But we will not be too late to deliver justice, he paused, looking out at the fleet. The Vakran think they can attack our people without consequences. They think we're just another weak species that will file protests and do nothing. They're about to learn the most important thing about humanity. We protect our own, no matter how long it takes, no matter how far we have to go. We never abandon our people. Frank took a deep breath. The Vakran started this war when they fired the first shot at New Haven. We're going to finish it. All ships prepare for jump to light speed. The bridge lights dimmed as the engines powered up. Frank felt the familiar sensation of the faster-than-light drive engaging. Through the window, the stars began to stretch and blur. Jump successful, Blake reported. Estimated arrival at Kepler 442b in 3 months. Frank sat down in his command chair. 3 months. It felt like an eternity. But they were coming. The Vakran would soon learn that attacking Earth's colonies was the biggest mistake they had ever made. In his quarters that night, Frank looked at the pictures he kept on his wall. His crew from the border wars, the friends he had lost, the people he had saved. He had never wanted to fight another war. But the Vakran had given him no choice. Hold on, New Haven, he whispered. We're coming. Jake Morrison crawled through the ventilation shaft, trying not to make any noise. Behind him, 3 other members of the resistance followed in the darkness. It had been 3 months since the Vakran attacked New Haven, and Jake had learned to move like a ghost through the ruins of his home. The bombing had lasted for 2 days. When it finally stopped, Jake and the other survivors emerged from the shelters to find their colony destroyed. More than 38,000 people were dead. The buildings were rubble, The beautiful parks and farms were burned, and the Vakran soldiers were waiting for them. Jake reached the end of the shaft and looked down through the grate. Below him, he could see the mining facility where the Vakran were forcing the survivors to work. Humans in dirty clothes were digging in the tunnels, pulling out rare minerals that the aliens wanted. Vakran guards stood watching them, weapons ready. "I count 6 guards," whispered Maria Santos, one of Jake's team. She had been a school teacher before the attack. Now she was learning how to fight. "We can take them," said Danny Wright. He was young, only 19, but he had proven himself brave in the past weeks. Jake shook his head. "Not today. We're just gathering information. Lisa needs to know how many guards they have on each shift." They watched for another hour, counting guards and noting their patrol patterns. Then they crawled back through the ventilation system to their hidden base. It was an old storage facility deep underground that the Vakran had not discovered yet. About 200 resistance fighters lived there, planning attacks and trying to stay alive. Lisa Grant was waiting for them when they arrived. She looked tired and thin. Everyone was thin now. The Vakran only gave them enough food to keep working, nothing more. But Lisa's eyes were still strong and determined. 6 guards on the evening shift, Jake reported. They change every 4 hours. Lisa marked this on her map. Over the past months, she had been creating detailed notes about every Vakran position, every guard schedule, every weakness they could find. "Good work. We'll hit that facility next week." Jake sat down heavily. His body ached from crawling through the tight spaces. "How are the people in the camps?" Lisa's face grew darker. "Not good. The Vakran executed 5 more yesterday. They caught them trying to steal food." Jake felt the familiar anger burning in his chest. In the first weeks of occupation, the Vakran commander, Captain Zekthar, had tried to break the survivors' spirits. He had given speeches about how humans were weak. He had executed people for small offenses. He seemed genuinely confused when the humans did not give up. "He doesn't understand us," Jake said quietly. "None of them do. They think we're like the other species they've conquered," Lisa agreed. "But we're not. We don't break that easily." A noise at the entrance made everyone reach for their weapons. Then Ben Carter appeared and they all relaxed. Ben had been missing for weeks. Everyone thought he was dead. But he had actually been hiding in the wilderness areas outside the colony, and he had not been alone. "Ben," Lisa ran to him. "Where have you been?" Ben grinned. He looked wild with a long beard and torn clothes, but his eyes were bright. "I've been busy. Come outside. I want to show you something." They followed him to the surface entrance. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Standing in the shadows were 30 more people, all armed with weapons they had made from salvaged materials. They looked rough and dangerous. "I've been finding survivors who escaped into the wilderness," Ben explained. "Hunters, farmers, security people. I've been training them. We're ready to fight." Over the next week, the resistance became more organized. Ben taught them tactics he had learned in the Marines. They learned how to set traps, how to hit fast and disappear, how to use the Vakran's overconfidence against them. Jake realized something important during this time. The Vakran were good at big military battles in space, but they had no experience with guerrilla warfare. They expected enemies to line up and fight directly. They did not understand humans who hid in shadows and struck when the aliens least expected it. The resistance began their campaign. They destroyed a Vakran supply depot using homemade explosives. They freed 50 prisoners from a work camp. They sabotaged mining equipment. Each time they vanished before the Vakran could respond. Captain Zekthar became furious. He increased the guards. He executed more hostages, but this only made the humans more determined. Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him once about Earth's history, about how occupied people always found ways to fight back, about how conquering a land was easy but controlling angry people was impossible. One night, Jake and Ben sat together in the darkness, looking at the stars. "Do you think the message got through?" Ben asked quietly. "Do you think Earth is coming?" Jake wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe it with all his heart. But 3 months had passed. Even if Earth sent ships immediately, they would not arrive for months more. Many of the survivors were losing hope. "I think someone heard it," Jake said finally. "I have to believe that." The next day brought news that made everyone's heart sink. The Vakran were bringing in reinforcements. 4 more warships were coming. That would give them 11 ships total in orbit. The resistance gathered in the underground base to discuss what this meant. "They're preparing for something big," Lisa said. looking at the information they had gathered. Maybe they're planning to expand to other human colonies. Or maybe they know Earth is coming, Ben suggested. Maybe they detected ships. Jake did not think so. If Earth was coming, they would still be weeks away. But he kept quiet. The people needed hope. That evening, Lisa found Jake in the small corner he used as a sleeping area. She sat down beside him. "I found something today," she said, pulling out a damaged data pad. In the wreckage of the main communication building, she turned it on. The screen flickered, but it worked. It showed the transmission logs from the day of the attack. Jake's distress message was there, marked as successfully sent. "It got through," Lisa said softly. "Your message reached Earth." Jake felt tears in his eyes. He had not cried since the attack, had not let himself feel anything except anger and determination. But now, seeing the proof that his message had escaped, something broke inside him. "They're coming," he whispered. "I know they are. We just have to survive long enough." Lisa put her hand on his shoulder. "Then we survive. We've made it this far. We can make it longer." The next morning, Jake stood in front of all the resistance fighters. 200 faces looked back at him, dirty and tired but not broken. "I want you all to know something," he said. "Earth received our distress call. I have proof. Someone out there knows what happened to us." He saw hope light up in their eyes. "We don't know when help will arrive. It might be weeks. It might be months. But I know this. Humans don't abandon their own. Someone is coming. Our job is to make sure we're alive when they get here." A young woman raised her hand. "And what do we do until then?" Jake smiled grimly. "We make the Vakran regret ever coming to our world. We hit them again and again. We make them understand that humans don't surrender. We fight," the resistance cheered. It was not a loud cheer. They had to stay quiet to avoid detection. But Jake could feel the new energy in the room. Hope was a powerful weapon. That night, the Vakran sensors detected something at the edge of the system. Captain Zekthar was informed of approaching ships. He smiled, thinking it was his reinforcements arriving early. He had no idea how wrong he was. Admiral Frank Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDS Retribution as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 3 months of traveling through space, they had finally arrived at Kepler 442b. Through the main window, he could see the planet where New Haven Colony was supposed to be. Around it, 7 Vakran warships were in orbit. "Sir, we're detecting multiple Vakran vessels," reported Commander Sullivan. 7 warships, various classes. They've seen us and are moving into defensive positions. "Are there any human life signs on the planet?" Frank asked quietly. Amy worked her console. "Yes, sir. I'm reading approximately 12,000 human life signs. They're alive." Frank felt relief wash through him. They were not too late. Not completely. How many did the colony have originally? 50,000, sir. The relief turned to cold anger. 38,000 people dead. Frank's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. "Communications, send a message to the Vakran fleet. Tell them to surrender immediately or be destroyed." The communication officer sent the message. A minute later, a response came back. A Vakran face appeared on the screen. It was Captain Zekthar, though Frank did not know his name yet. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect, with hard plates covering his body and multiple eyes. "Unknown vessels. This is Vakran territory now," Zekthar said in translated speech. "You have no authority here. Leave or you will be destroyed." Frank stood up. "I am Admiral Frank Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. You attacked our colony. You killed our people. Surrender now and you will be treated as prisoners of war. Refuse and we will destroy every ship you have." Zekthar made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 27 ships. We have 7, but 4 more are arriving soon. And Vakran ships are superior to anything you have. This is your last chance to flee, human." Frank smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "We tried. All ships weapons free. Target the Vakran fleet. No mercy." The battle began immediately. The Vakran ships opened fire first, shooting bright energy beams at the human fleet. But something strange happened. The Vakran weapons hit the human ships and the ships kept coming. The energy shields that the Vakran relied on were designed to stop energy weapons. But human ships had different shields designed to stop both energy and physical projectiles. Then the human fleet returned fire, and the Vakran learned their first terrible lesson. Most spacefaring species used energy weapons, lasers, plasma beams, things that traveled at the speed of light. But humans had developed something different. They used railguns, massive weapons that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. They used missiles that could adjust their path mid-flight. The EDS Retribution fired its main railgun. A slug of metal the size of a car shot out at a significant fraction of light speed. It hit a Vakran cruiser's shields. The shields, designed to deflect energy beams, did almost nothing against solid matter. The projectile punched through the shield, through the armor, and through the ship. The Vakran cruiser exploded. "Target destroyed," reported the weapons officer calmly. All around the battlefield, the same thing was happening. Human ships were firing railgun rounds and missiles at the Vakran fleet. The Vakran shields were nearly useless. Their ships were designed to fight enemies who used the same tactics they did. They had never encountered an enemy that fought this way. "Launch fighters," Frank ordered. The hangars of the human ships opened, and small fighter craft poured out. Lieutenant Kelly Brooks led her squadron toward the nearest Vakran ship. She had been a pilot for 10 years, and she had trained for this moment. "Gold Squadron, follow my lead," she said into her radio. "Hit them with everything we've got." Her fighter carried 6 missiles. She locked onto the Vakran warship and fired all 6 at once. Behind her, the other fighters in her squadron did the same. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the Vakran ship. Its defense systems tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The missiles hit and the ship broke apart. On the bridge of the Retribution, Frank watched the battle unfold. 2 hours had passed. 6 Vakran ships were destroyed. Only one remained, and it was trying to run away. "Captain Blake, do not let that ship escape," Frank ordered. Ryan Blake, the ship's captain, nodded. "Helm, pursue that vessel. Weapons, target their engines." The Retribution was faster than the Vakran ship. It caught up quickly. A railgun round destroyed the alien ship's engines, leaving it drifting in space. "Sir, the Vakran ship is disabled," reported Blake. "They're trying to surrender." "Prepare a boarding party," Frank said. "I want that ship secured and the crew taken prisoner." Within an hour, the space battle was over. The Vakran fleet was destroyed or captured. Not a single human ship had been lost, though several had damage. Frank allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then he remembered the people on the planet below. "Communications, try to contact the colony. Let them know we're here." Down on the planet's surface, Jake Morrison could not believe what he was seeing. The resistance had gathered at a high point where they could watch the sky. They had seen the ships appear. They had seen the battle. And they had seen the Vakran fleet destroyed in just 2 hours. "They came," Jake whispered. Earth actually came. Around him, people were crying and hugging each other. After 3 months of suffering and fighting, help had finally arrived. But there was no time to celebrate yet. The Vakran still had soldiers on the ground. In the main Vakran base, Captain Zekthar received the news that his fleet was destroyed. He looked at his second-in-command in disbelief. "How is this possible? How did these humans destroy our ship so easily?" "They fight differently than we expected," the officer said nervously. "Their weapons are not like ours. They use solid projectiles and explosive missiles. Our shields cannot stop them effectively." Zekthar felt fear for the first time in his life. His entire career, he had conquered weaker species with ease. Now he understood. The humans were not weak. They were something else entirely. "Prepare all remaining forces," he ordered. "The humans will land ground troops. We will execute all the human prisoners and fight to the last soldier." But before he could give the order, alarms began blaring throughout the base. The human resistance, sensing that liberation was near, had launched a coordinated attack on all Vakran positions simultaneously. Jake led one team that assaulted the prison camp. Ben Carter led another team that attacked the military barracks. Lisa coordinated everything from the resistance base, directing fighters to where they were needed most. The Vakran soldiers were confused and disorganized. They had expected the resistance to hide and wait for rescue. They had not expected the humans to attack. In the chaos, hundreds of prisoners were freed. Then the human fleet began landing troops. Large transport ships descended from orbit, carrying thousands of Marines. These were professional soldiers with advanced weapons and armor. They moved in coordinated teams, using tactics the Vakran had never seen before. Where the Vakran expected direct charges, the humans used cover and moved in small groups. Where the Vakran had slow-moving tanks, the humans had fast vehicles that hit from multiple directions. The human soldiers worked together with the resistance fighters, combining their strength. Jake found himself fighting alongside a human Marine sergeant named Tony Garcia. Good to see you held out, Tony said as he fired at Vakran positions. We got here as fast as we could. You're here now, Jake replied. That's what matters. The battle for the surface lasted 6 hours. The Vakran fought hard, but they were overwhelmed. Captain Zekthar tried to organize a final defense, but his soldiers were surrendering everywhere. Finally, his own headquarters was surrounded. Captain, we must surrender, his second-in-command said. We cannot win this fight. Zekthar looked around at his defeated forces. He had come to this planet expecting an easy conquest. He had thought humans were weak prey. He had been so very wrong. Send the surrender signal. When the fighting ended, Admiral Hayes landed on the planet personally. He walked through the ruins of New Haven with Lisa and Jake beside him. Around them, human soldiers were providing medical care to the survivors and distributing food and supplies. I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner, Frank said quietly. Lisa shook her head. You came. That's what matters. A lot of species would have just abandoned us. We're not a lot of species, Frank replied. He looked at the survivors, at the people who had endured 3 months of occupation. You people are heroes. You survived. You fought back. You never gave up. Jake looked up at the sky, where human ships were now in orbit instead of Vakran ones. What happens now? Frank's expression hardened. Now we make sure this never happens again. 6 weeks after the battle, New Haven was beginning to look like a colony again. Construction teams from Earth had arrived with supplies and equipment. New buildings were going up where the old ones had been destroyed. The parks were being replanted. The survivors were starting to rebuild their lives. Jake Morrison stood in the new communication center, watching the construction through the window. He was no longer just a communication officer. Admiral Hayes had made him an official liaison between the colony and the Earth military. It was strange to wear a uniform again, but it felt right. Jake, you have a visitor, called one of the other officers. Jake turned to see Captain Zekthar being escorted into the room by 2 guards. The Vakran captain was now a prisoner, but he was being treated well. The Earth military had strict rules about how to treat prisoners of war, even alien ones. You wanted to speak with me? Jake asked. Zekthar's multiple eyes studied Jake carefully. Over the past weeks, the Vakran captain had been learning about humans, and what he learned confused him. Yes, I have a question. Why do you treat us with respect? We destroyed your colony. We killed your people. We enslaved the survivors. Yet you give us food and medical care. You follow rules of war. Why? Jake thought about this. Because that's what separates us from you. We can be brutal in war, but we're not cruel for the sake of being cruel. We follow laws even when it's hard. That's what makes us human. I don't understand your species, Zekthar admitted. You are predators. I see it in your eyes and the way you fight. But you also show mercy. You protect the weak. You never abandon your own. The Vakran are not like this. Maybe that's why you lost, Jake said quietly. Zekthar made a sound that might have been agreement. When we first saw your colony, we thought you were prey. Easy targets. We didn't know you were also predators. We didn't know you would fight back the way you did. Now you know, Jake said. Make sure the rest of your people learn this lesson too. While New Haven was being rebuilt, Admiral Hayes was dealing with bigger problems. Earth had made official contact with the Galactic Council for the first time. Ambassador Claire Nelson had been sent to represent humanity at the Council's headquarters, a massive station near the center of known space. Claire was a skilled diplomat who had spent years preparing for first contact with alien species. But nothing had prepared her for the response to Earth's actions at New Haven. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, with representatives from 60 different species. When Claire entered, she could feel all of them staring at her. The council speaker, a tall alien with blue skin, addressed her. Ambassador Nelson, we have received reports about the incident at Kepler 442b. The Vakran sovereignty has filed a formal complaint against humanity. They claim you destroyed their military vessels and took their soldiers prisoner. They demand the return of their property and payment for damages. Claire had prepared for this. She stood tall and confident. The Vakran attacked a civilian colony without provocation. They killed 38,000 innocent people. They enslaved the survivors. Under any reasonable law, this was an act of genocide. The council chamber erupted in noise. Different species were speaking at once, some agreeing, others arguing. The speaker called for silence. The Vakran claimed the colony was in disputed territory, the speaker said. There was no dispute, Claire replied firmly. New Haven had been established for 15 years. No one contested our claim until the Vakran decided they wanted the resources there. They didn't negotiate. They didn't offer to buy the land. They just attacked. She pulled up recordings on the main screen. Jake's original distress call played for all the species to hear. Then came footage from the battle, showing how the Vakran had bombarded civilian targets. Finally, there were images from the occupation, showing the work camps and executed prisoners. The council chamber was silent now. Even species that were friendly with the Vakran looked uncomfortable. What the footage showed was clear genocide, something that even the most aggressive species usually avoided. The Vakran have broken fundamental laws of war, Claire continued. They targeted civilians. They used prisoners as slaves. They executed people for minor offenses. Earth responded with military force, but we followed all proper rules of engagement. We gave them a chance to surrender. We treated prisoners humanely. We targeted only military assets. A representative from a species called the Trell spoke up. But humanity destroyed 7 Vakran warships in just 2 hours. Your military technology appears far more advanced than we expected. Some council members are concerned about this. Claire smiled slightly. Our technology is not more advanced. It's just different. Most galactic species use similar weapons and tactics because you all learned from each other. Humanity developed independently. We fight differently because we had to. Earth's history is full of wars. We learned hard lessons about combat. That makes you dangerous, said a Vakran representative who was attending via video link. Only to those who attack us first, Claire shot back. The Vakran started this war. They chose violence. They chose genocide. Humanity simply finished what they started. The Vakran representative looked angry but said nothing. He knew the evidence was against them. What are Earth's terms? The council speaker asked. Claire had discussed this with Earth's government before coming to the council. Earth demands 3 things. First, the Vakran must establish a demilitarized zone between their space and ours. No Vakran military vessels are allowed within 20 light years of any human colony. Second, the Vakran prisoners will be returned, but only after they stand trial for war crimes. Those found guilty will serve their sentences according to galactic law. Third, the Vakran must pay compensation to rebuild New Haven and support the survivors. These terms are harsh, the speaker said. The Vakran killed 38,000 civilians, Claire replied coldly. These terms are merciful. Admiral Hayes wanted to pursue the Vakran fleet all the way to their homeworld. I convinced him that diplomacy was worth trying first. The council took 2 days to debate. In the end, they sided with humanity. The Vakran had clearly violated multiple laws. They had no choice but to accept Earth's terms. The humiliation of the defeat, combined with the loss of so many ships, severely weakened the Vakran's position in galactic politics. Back at New Haven, Lisa Grant gathered all the survivors for a memorial service. They had built a monument in the center of the new town square, a large stone wall with the names of all 38,000 people who had died in the attack. Families came to touch the names of loved ones and leave flowers. Admiral Hayes spoke at the service. We cannot bring back the people we lost. We cannot undo what happened here, but we can honor their memory by making sure it never happens again. New Haven will be rebuilt. It will be stronger than before. And Earth will protect all its colonies with everything we have. Jake stood beside the monument looking at the names. He found the ones he knew personally. Colleagues from the communications center, friends he had made over the years. Good people who had just wanted to live peaceful lives. We survived, Lisa said quietly, coming to stand beside him. We did what you said. We held on long enough. A lot of people didn't, Jake replied. But 12,000 did because you sent that message. Because Earth came. Because humans don't abandon their own. Over the following months, Earth's presence in the galaxy grew. More human colonies were established. But this time they were protected by military outposts. Human warships patrolled the borders of human space. The Vakran kept their distance, unwilling to risk another devastating defeat. Other species began to see humanity differently. Some were afraid of the humans' military capability. Others were impressed by their determination to protect civilians. A few species reached out to establish trade agreements and alliances with Earth. Jake eventually returned to Earth for a brief visit. He stood in the same communication center where his distress call had been received months earlier. Commander Sullivan showed him the original recording. "This message saved a lot of lives," Amy said. "It also changed humanity's place in the galaxy. Before this, we were just another new species trying to find our way. Now everyone knows what happens if you attack humans." "Is that a good thing?" Jake asked. Amy considered this. "It depends. Some species will always fear strength, but fear can prevent war just as much as diplomacy can. The Vakran won't attack another human colony because they know the cost. Other aggressive species have learned the same lesson." Jake thought about this as he prepared to return to New Haven. The colony needed people who understood what had happened, who could help the new settlers understand the sacrifices that had been made there. A year after the attack, New Haven had a population of 30,000 people. Some were original survivors. Others were new settlers who came to help rebuild. The colony was different now. It had military defenses and a permanent naval presence in orbit. But it was also a symbol of something important. Jake stood at the memorial wall one evening with a group of new arrivals. A young woman asked him about the attack. "Were you scared when the Vakran came?" "Terrified," Jake admitted. "But I was also angry. And determined. I knew that if I could just get a message to Earth, someone would come. Someone would care enough to cross the galaxy to save us."